Welcome to another episode of the Snakes Are Us TV podcast, presented by Southeastern Reptile Rescue and its founder and director, me, Jason Clark.
Are you ready?
This is our second week, episode 2. You see, I don't even know what I'm doing. I forget to put these on because I can't hear if the mic is working. Okay, it is working. So this is week 2 of the Snakes Are Us TV podcast. We made it to week 2. Will we make it to week 3? That is yet to be seen. We will see. So this week, I have a topic I want to talk about. I think it might be, I was going to say it might be fun. This might not be fun. I don't even know if I want to share this. I may end up changing the topic and not even talking about the topic I was going to talk about because I just don't even want to tell you guys. But we're going to see. So one thing I want to say first off is I was in South Georgia. I had to get up this morning, go to South Georgia and do a venomous snake presentation for a group down there. About 2,500 people was at this event. And so had to go do a show this morning. Then I drove 3 hours back home and went to the post office. We have a P.O. box, and I went in there, and I had a letter in there that said there's a box that's too big to fit in your P.O. box. So I went and gave it to the lady. I'm like, what is this? I haven't ordered anything. And she said, that big stack of boxes over there, all that's yours. So I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So she wheels it out, on a set of hand trucks, and it's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 boxes or something. And apparently one of our viewers had sent us a bunch of stuff from our Amazon wish list, some shavings for our cages and some other stuff. So it didn't tell me who that was. So whoever that was, I really, really appreciate that. We can definitely use all that stuff. So thank you very much. So I'm going to tell you guys, I guess the topic that we're going to talk about today is fears. Fear, being afraid of stuff. And, so many people are terrified of snakes. And, part of my job is teaching people about snakes and trying to get them over that fear. I explained to them, that a lot of fears come from a lack of knowledge. And just like a little kid who's afraid of the dark. They're afraid of the dark because they don't know what's in the room. But you flick the light on, now they have knowledge of what's in the room, and the fear goes away. Same thing with snakes. The less you know about snakes, or the more misinformation you know about snakes, easier it is not to like snakes. So that's what we try to do, is try to get people over that fear. But people ask me, I'll be handling a snake, and somebody will come up like, "You're not scared of that thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm scared of it. That's why I'm using a hook. That's why I'm using tools. I don't want to get bit." So what is that old saying? No fear. No fear will get you killed. If you have no fear of anything, you don't look both ways before you cross the interstate, okay? You're going to die. So, irrational fear can get you killed. No fear can get you killed. But the right amount of fear, I like to call respect, can actually keep you safe. And I like to think that's kind of what I have for venomous snakes, is respect, and not so much as just being terrified of them. But so many people are afraid of snakes. So I guess I'm going to tell you guys what my fear is. Now, my friends and family know this about me. My mom thinks it's hilarious. I don't. But as I think about what I'm afraid of, and I think about people being afraid of snakes and how I would get someone over their fear of snakes, what I'm afraid of, I don't want to get over it. I don't want to come to terms with it. I don't want to be like, you know what? My fear I had, I'm over it. I don't want to be over it. I think that my fear is a normal fear, and I don't understand why other people don't have this fear as much as I do. So it's not just one word that sums up my fear. I guess it's a few things, but it all has to do with the same thing. Dead people, okay? I don't like funeral homes. I don't like graveyards. I don't like the hearse. I don't like caskets. I don't like any of that stuff. It freaks me out, okay? It freaks me out. Why? I have no idea. Do I want to get over it? I don't want to get over it. I'm okay with being away from this stuff. And if you say I'm scared of it, I'm okay with that. Now, let me explain to what extent this has affected my life. Like if I'm driving down the road and there's a 4-lane road, or there's a lane next to me, and I realize there's a hearse, the car that hauls the casket around, I won't ride beside it. I don't even like to ride behind it, because as I'm riding behind it, wherever I'm riding, I'm where it just was. I don't even want to be in that spot. And I can't stand it. And so I don't, so the video we just watched, we just did, if you're listening to this later, we just did a live stream of our latest YouTube video on YouTube. And it was about how snakes sometimes spray venom. So let me give you the backstory on that, okay? So Sue, who's in the video, she calls and tells me her son has passed away and wants me to take his snakes. This is a call we get actually a lot. And, she's grieving. I don't want to come out and say, well, he's not still in the house where the snakes are, or did he die in the house? Because like, I know this sounds so stupid, but if he died in the house, even if he's not in the house, I don't even want to go in the house, okay? I don't even want to go in there. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I ask this lady? So I just said, listen, I said, man, I'm so sorry about your son. I mean, did he even make it to the hospital? And she said, no, I actually found him, and I think she found him in the home. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm thinking, how do I get out of this? And I said, well, I've got a pretty busy schedule today. I don't think I'm going to be able to come by and get the snakes. My plan was to pass this off to a friend of mine and say, look, can you go pick up these snakes? And I'll take them. I ain't going in the house, because he died there and he's not there now, but I don't want to be, packing up snakes and not knowing where I'm standing. I could be standing where he died. And I know it sounds stupid. It freaks me out. I'm like, I can't do it. So she says, well, we can actually meet you at a gas station on the side of the interstate if you're running late. Because I was driving from South Georgia back up to Central Georgia where I live. I'm like, oh, well, that would work. I don't have to go to the house. And they're going to just meet me on the side of the interstate at the gas station with the snakes. Perfect. I said, you know what? I can make this work. So we set it up. And as I'm driving north up Interstate 75 in Georgia, I'm giving her updates of where I'm at. And so we meet at this gas station right off the interstate. And I pull up, I roll my window down, and she just basically says, okay, good to meet you. Follow me, and takes off. I'm like, follow you? Where are we going? I guess I didn't realize I was just going to follow her to the house. I thought she was bringing the snakes to the gas station. I don't have to go to the house. And now she's driving off. I'm like, what? Oh my God, what do I do? I can't get there and go into this house. I can't do that. I can't go into this house. So I'm driving there. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to think of a lie. Let me think of the best possible lie that I can tell this woman that she'll believe, that won't make me look completely psycho, to get me out of this. So I figured it out. I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. When I pull up, I'm going to get out, and I'm going to be, in the driveway with her, and I'm going to say, so how many ball pythons did your son have that we're getting? Because she already told me there were rattlesnakes. I knew I was going to go get timber rattlesnakes, okay? I knew that. But I was going to play dumb and act like I was just an idiot and didn't know that I was going to go get rattlesnakes. So my plan was to say, okay, so how many ball pythons are we getting? And then I'm thinking, okay, now she's going to say, oh, they're not ball pythons. These are timber rattlesnakes. And I was going to say, rattlesnakes? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't do venomous snakes. I'm sorry, ma'am. That's not something I'm comfortable dealing with. I'm going to have to go, but I'm going to send somebody else over here to deal with these. I know this sounds stupid. This sounds insane. I handle, venomous snakes and cobras and alligators and all this, and that doesn't scare me, but this freaks me out. So we pull up, and as you saw in the video, if you haven't seen the video, go watch. It's entitled, and I'll link it here. I'll put it in the description. It's entitled, Sometimes Snakes Spray Venom. You can see the house. And thank God the snakes were in the barn. I never had to go in the house. So it all worked out. But I was completely freaked out until that came up. And so I'm going to get over to the chat. And I don't know if you guys are in the chat right now or not. But if you are, go to the chat and we'll see if Tell me what your fears are. I want to tell you one more story that happened. So some of you may or may not know, I used to have my own TV series on Animal Planet. This was many years ago. And they filmed us and filmed me and my family and all the kind of stuff that we did. And that was a lot of fun. And one time we got a call from a lady who had a problem with some snakes and in her house. So we show up, my whole family's with me, we're with the film crew. Before we go in the house, the woman starts telling us the story about the snakes in the basement that she's having a problem with. And then she starts telling me how old this house is. Like, I don't know, 200 years old house. And then she starts talking about how all the people that were tortured and killed in the basement, and you walk in there and just feel, I'm like, my family looks at me because they know she just ruined this whole thing. I'm not going to the basement. And we've driven a long way to get there, to go in this basement. And I said, look, you know, we're not doing this. And they're like, no, we have to do it. I'm like, we're not. So we didn't film it. If you watched my TV show on Animal Planet, you didn't see any of that. We didn't film it. My family went down there. They toured the basement. They didn't find any snakes. I stayed out front and never went into that house. And do I feel bad about that? I do not. I do not feel bad about it. Yeah, so it freaks me out. One day, so I've got a truck too. I've got a white F-350 dually truck, and one day I had driven that to the gas station to fill it up. And I pull up to the gas pump, and as I pull up, I get out of the truck. I'm getting ready to pump. I haven't started pumping gas. I'm getting ready to pump gas, and I just happen to notice a hearse. Is that how you say it? A hearse? You know, the car that carries the casket, okay? Carries around dead people. I see a hearse pulling into the gas station. I'm like, oh my God. Let me just wait for a second, because I'm just telling you now, if that hearse pulls up at the same gas pump right here next to me, this ain't gonna work. So before I even start pumping, let me see where they go, just in case I have to move. So I'm like holding the gas pump, and I'm turned around just kind of watching to see where this thing goes. And it drives off, goes to the other side of the gas station. But as I turn back around, there is a woman dressed all in white standing at the hood of my truck with her hand on my truck. And I'm not a jumpy person, but I screamed. I screamed, and she's, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I'm like, what are you doing? She said, oh, I just saw your truck and it looks so cool. Like, what do you do something with reptiles? I'm like, what? I mean, I was just so freaked out by it, because I'm just thinking, this hearse here, now this woman's all in white, and I know she thought I was a complete idiot. I don't know, and maybe I am. So now my best story about this, I've got a bunch of them, but I'm gonna tell you one about somebody who booked me to go do a snake show, and I will never go back and do a snake show this place ever. I will never go back. I'm going to tell you that in just a minute. So we got a lot of people in the chat. If you have a question, come on here and ask your question. Let's see here. Nadia Brooke, you're back in here. Thank you. I see Nadia all the time. Let's see here. Who else we've got? Susan, I am very fearful of snakes. That is just ridiculous, okay? It is ridiculous for anybody to be, as I'm telling you, I'm afraid of dead people, okay? I'm telling you, it's ridiculous for you to be afraid of snakes. It is completely normal for me to be afraid of dead people, though. I'm terrified of spiders. See, spiders, they don't bother me either. One time I had to do a film project, and I had to have black widows. So I put on Facebook, can anybody collect black widows? So I was having people call me. So I had a black widow in this bottle thing. You couldn't see in it. It was in there for a couple of days, and I went to open it up. Well, an egg sac had hatched. I didn't know this. And I don't even know, 500, 1,000 tiny miniature black widows just covered my arm. And I was inside my snake building. I'm like, I don't want to shake it off in here, because then I'll have black widows on. So I had to keep the black widows on my arm. I mean, hundreds of them, tiny, so tiny, and get outside and shake them off in my yard. So spiders don't really bother me. I've never been bitten by a spider, though. I've been stung by scorpions. Never been bitten by a spider. Don't ever, Living with Cable said, don't ever tell Jason you dislike spiders. I learned, what did I do? Oh yeah, I remember what I did to Chris. Yeah, okay, I remember. Yeah, I did, he did tell me he was afraid of spiders, and that was not a good, Chris is a friend of mine, that was not a good idea because I did torture him a little bit. What are some of your fears? Jerry Ray, you have zero fears. You're not afraid of anything. Well, maybe if I have to go to one of these houses where somebody's died, I need to take you with me and let you go in there and get the snakes. I had the sheriff's department call, and they said, we're looking for a missing person, and it was a person they believed to already be deceased. And we're at an abandoned well, and we want to send a person to rappel down in this well to check if there's a missing person. But we can see something, but we can't tell what it is. But there's a snake in the well. We can see the snake. It's swimming around in there. So can you, and it was 15 minutes from my house. Can you come over here and help us get the snake? I'm like, you think there's a possibility there's a dead body in the well? They're like, well, we don't know that, but it's possible. I said, well, if you have to have the snake out there and I'm the only one can do it, that dead body's going to have to stay in the well. I cannot help you. So I did not go. I don't know what they did. Maybe they called somebody else. Maybe the person's still in the well. I don't know. But I could not. I can do that. Courtney Stoppard, is that how you say it? Courtney Stoppard. Hello, everyone. I love your videos, Jason. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love doing these videos, the ones that we put on YouTube. I love doing those. It's just they're so time-consuming. I bet I've got 20 or 30 videos already filmed. It just takes so long for me to sit down and edit them because I'm a little bit OCD sometimes with it. Annette, did I say what I was afraid of yet? Yes, it's not poison ivy. Annette guessed on Facebook it was poison ivy. I'm highly allergic to poison ivy, and I've always wondered why God made me allergic to it, and I think I figured it out. I think God made me allergic to poison ivy so much, so when I'm tromping through the woods in my tennis shoes and shorts, I slow down, pay attention, watch for poison ivy, which helps me not step on a snake. At least that's my guess. So Annette, what I'm afraid of are dead people and anything associated with dead people, okay? Hearse, funeral homes, all that stuff. So anyway, I had a lady call me and ask me to come speak at an event. So if you don't know, if you just watch me on YouTube or listen to the podcast, I do 200 shows a year. It's basically like a live venomous snake comedy stage show type thing. And I do these all over Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Kansas, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. We go all over the country, but mainly here in Georgia, I do a lot of these shows. I had a lady book me to speak at an event the day after Father's Day. It was going to be on a Monday. It was in West Alabama. If you've never been to West Alabama, what's in West Alabama is nothing. There's nothing in West Alabama. At least the part I went to, there was nothing in the part of West Alabama I went to. So she's booked me for this place. And I said, well, it's a long drive to West Alabama, the west side of Alabama where it meets, I guess, what is that, Mississippi? Yeah. So I said, I need a hotel. She said, yeah, we'll cover your hotel and all that. I said, okay, cool. Well, the time comes, and it's Father's Day, and I'm spending time with my daughters, and I don't want to just leave in the middle of the day. So I ended up messaging the woman. I said, look, I'm going to be leaving late because it's Father's Day, and I don't have the hotel info. Can you go ahead and send me the hotel info? So she sent it to me, and it was not a hotel. It was a bed and breakfast, which sounds really nice. Some of you are like, oh, man, well, that's nice, a bed and breakfast. That's cool. It's not cool, okay? It's not cool. And I've never stayed at a bed and breakfast, mainly because I've never wanted to stay at a bed and breakfast. These are old houses. There's no telling. When a house gets old enough, there's probably been a lot of stuff that's happened in that house. I don't need to stay there. So I'm like, oh, God. So I don't get this message till late at night. And I'm like, I'm going to call this lady. I'm like, ma'am, I don't know if this bed and breakfast is going to work. She said, well, there's not really any hotels in this area. I said, well, I'm going to be getting there late. I'm not going to get there till midnight. I don't want to wake these people up. She said, well, there's nobody there. I said, what do you mean there's nobody running the bed and breakfast? She said, no, it'll just be you. I said, well, who's cooking my breakfast? She said, well, it's a continental type breakfast. They'll have it ready. You just fix. I said, oh, okay, well. Yeah, okay, I guess that's not bad. I just never stayed at the bed and breakfast. And she's like, oh, you'll love it. You'll love it. I said, okay. So I drive to West Alabama alone with all my snakes. I get to this bed and breakfast house at around midnight, and they've left no lights on. There's not a house light in the house. There's not a porch light on. There's not a street light. And where you're supposed to park is kind of behind the house next to this wooden shed. And this wooden shed looks like it was made to be in a horror movie, and that's where all the stuff's going to happen. I'm like, well, I'm not parking next to that shed. So I just pull around up into the front yard on the grass of this house. And, I'm usually armed because if I go catch a big alligator at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's a 12-foot gator. I've never had to shoot and kill an alligator, but if I'm by myself and I'm jumping on a big gator and he grabs my arm, I need to be able to get out of it. So I carry a gun on each side when I'm doing that. So I have 2 guns in my vehicle, a 9mm and a 45. So I get both of them. I'm like, okay, I'm getting both of my guns, and I'm walking up this house. And I get up in the house, and I walk up the porch, and it's so dark. I've got a flashlight with me. I got a flashlight and 2 guns. And I get up there, and this is when things went bad. I look on the left side of the door. I can still see it. There's a big metal plaque, and it said something, 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 Historical Society. You know what that means? That's code for haunted. If something happened here and they want to preserve it, whatever happened probably wasn't good. I'm like, this is not good. So I'm like, okay, let me just see. So I push open the door and it creaks up. And have you ever like walked down into like an old basement and you open like a basement door and that wet, damp air kind of hits you and it's that wet and musty smell and it's just, well, that's how it was. And you could see down the hallway. It was like a shotgun house. You could see all the way down the hallway from the front door, and there's rooms off to each side. All the doors to the rooms are open, and there's no lights on. It is dark. And I just had this chill run up my spine, and I said, in the name of Jesus, get away from me. And I ran and got in my van. I rolled the windows up. I locked the doors. Said, I'm not going in that house. And I didn't even shut the door, I don't think. And I wasn't about to go back to see if I shut the door. So I'm like, I'll go to a hotel. I'll pay for my own hotel. And I just won't even say anything about this. It'll be it. It'll be done. And I look up a hotel, and she was right. There were no hotels nearby. It was 45 minutes away. And it's already 12:30 a.m. at this point. So I'm like, it's fine. So I drive. I get to this hotel after 1 o'clock in the morning. I go into the hotel and I get a room, and the lady hands me my key card at this hotel, and my room is on the 2nd floor. I go up to the 2nd floor, and as I go to put my key card in the door, I notice a paint smudge, like somebody had paint on their finger and maybe like smudged the door, kind of put a little paint mark on it accidentally. I just noticed it, So then I go in the hotel room, and as soon as I go in the room, all you could smell, fresh paint. Yep, fresh paint. I'm like, nope. I shut the door. I go right back downstairs. I go right back to the front desk. I said, ma'am, she says, is there a problem with your room? I said, I don't know. I don't know if there is or not. I just have some questions. She goes, okay. I said, that room has just been freshly painted. The whole room has been freshly painted. I said, did y'all just paint every single room in this hotel? She said, no, sir, I don't think so. I said, oh, really? Okay, well, so what happened in that room that y'all decided it needed to be redone and painted? You didn't paint any other rooms, you painted that one and you put me in it. Did something bad happen in that room? She goes, I don't think so. I said, no, what do you mean you don't think so? I said, when somebody asks you if something bad happened in the hotel room you just put them in, you don't say, you say, no, definitely not. You give me some encouragement, make me feel better about it. What do you mean you don't think so? I said, listen to me. I just drove from a haunted house somebody tried to make me stay in. And I showed her a picture of it. She said, wow, that does look haunted. I said, it is. I said, I need a hotel room that no one's ever died in, that I can lay down in and sleep and not be laying where somebody's died, okay? She said, well, look, if you'll look right there on the first floor, right there, see that room? I said, yeah. She goes, if you go in that room and you look out the peephole, you can see the front desk. That's the room I want, ma'am. And so she gave it to me. So I go in the room. I finally get in bed. I don't know what time I go to sleep. It was really late. I get up the next morning, leave early. I drive 45 minutes back over to this other town where I got to do this show. And I do the show. Everything goes great. And at the end of it, I'm packing up my snakes, putting them in the vehicle, getting ready to drive it to Georgia. And the lady who booked me comes out, hands me my check for doing the show. And I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to let it all go. But then she says, how'd you like the bed and breakfast? I said, it was lovely. I said, thank you for your hospitality. I really appreciate it. Packing up snakes. She said, well, which room did you stay in? Oh, God. I said, ma'am, I went there, but I didn't stay in a room there. She said, what room did you stay in? I said, room 105 at the hotel. She said, there is no hotel. I said, 45 minutes away there is. She said, why didn't you stay in the bed and breakfast? I said, man, I said, that house is like, it looks haunted. And she said, oh, yeah, I think you're right. It probably is. I said, what? What do you mean? What do you mean it probably is? You don't book people into a house that you think is haunted? She said, well, I happen to also be a mortician. That stuff just doesn't bother me. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Okay, so who's the weird one now? Okay, so that stuff completely freaks me out. I don't like any of it. All this stuff makes me sound extremely crazy. And it's probably a little worse than even I'm making it sound, because there's a lot of stories that my mom, my sister, my daughters, they would probably like to tell you, that I'm not going to let them. They even meant my sister Carmen, she's like, look, why don't you let us come on the podcast and let us tell some stories? I said, well, first of all, I only have one microphone. And she said, well, you're going to get more microphones to have guests on. I said, yeah, but, not you. You can't come on. So I don't want her telling anything. So Matthew Waller. So Matthew Waller, do you have a fear of growing hair? So listen, now this guy, Matthew Waller, he is I don't know, he's been following me for quite a few years, this Matthew Waller. And I think he lives in Macon, and he's a little bit of a loser. He's a little bit of a loser, and I have known him for many, many years. So whatever he types in the chat, let's just completely ignore anything that Matthew Waller has to say, okay? So living with Cable Chris, I know where I'm taking you on Halloween. No, you don't know where I can go to like a haunted house, like when you pay to go into like a tourist attraction thing, where it's people dressing up as monsters to jump out and scare you. I can do that. I will not go on a ghost tour in Savannah. I will not do that. I've never done that. I will never do that. That's not my thing. My friend, he's actually been on our YouTube channel. His name is Warren Bond, and he's been in a few videos that we've done. Lost on Rattlesnake Island is the latest one. And there was some other ones on there. Well, his dad has been in some of our videos too. Well, unfortunately, his dad, who I loved, Warren Sr., passed away this year, and just love him to death. And so Warren, my friend, is a snake guy. His dad, Warren Sr., is a snake guy. Warren Sr.'s dad was a snake guy. So 3 generations of herpers, snake hunters, and we'd always go on these snake trips. And then when Warren Sr. passed away, Warren Jr. called me and said, "Hey, look, funeral's coming up. Would you be a pallbearer?" I said, "Yeah, Warren. I'm really sorry. Yeah, I'll do that for your dad." He said, "Well, it would mean a lot to my dad." I said, "Warren, you and me both know that it would not. Your dad would do that just to screw with me." He said, "Yeah, I know." So I was able to get out of it. I had a whole plan. I had gone on Amazon. I had ordered some black leather gloves that kind of looked stylish, and I was going to wear some sunglasses. And my plan was the sunglasses didn't really have a purpose other than to make me look eccentric. Like, oh, well, how's the guy got gloves on? Well, he's got sunglasses too. He's just going to have a weird guy. And that way I didn't have to actually touch the casket with my hands, even though I didn't even know how I was going to touch it with gloves that my hands were in. I didn't even know how I was going to do that. And then I was like, well, if I have to do it, I can be at the very back of the casket, because you don't want to be at the front of the casket, because then, and you're walking to the hearse, you're like if you're at the front of the casket, you're kind of all up in, like almost getting pushed in the casket, pushed in the hearse with the casket. So we're not doing that. But luckily, thank the Lord, I was able to get out of it. Chris Taylor, do you watch Walking Dead? I watched the first couple seasons of it, and I didn't do anything past that. That doesn't really freak me out because I know that it's a TV show. So that stuff doesn't really scare me that much. But I don't watch horror movies simply because if I go out into the swamp at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm hunting cottonmouths, enjoying my night, all of a sudden at some point, some scene in some movie is going to pop into my head, and I'm going to say, you know what, I think it's time to go. We don't need to be snake hunting out here anyway. So I don't watch any of that stuff just because I know I will remember some of the stuff. It will definitely come back to me at some point. So we're going to get ready to end this here in just a minute. But before we do, okay, so Annette just asked, did you never encountered a body as a cop? So if you don't know, I used to be a police officer, and I also knew that if I told them that I had a problem with this, of course, every single call that ever came in, I would get. If a person died, oh, send him, I knew that's what would happen. So you have to act like you love it. Like, oh, yeah, this is cool. Yeah, look at them. Oh, yeah, they're dead. And so you have to kind of just be fine with it. And so I'll never forget, I was in training, and I was still, it's called FTO, Field Training Officer Program. So you're riding with another officer, a senior officer, for so many weeks until you're on your own. And we had to check off all these boxes of all these different calls I had to go on. So at some point, I had to go to a call where someone was deceased. I knew I had to do this. And it was a signal 48. When you say signal 48, that means a dead person. So just to let you know, this is how stupid this is. Like, if I'm going to turn my TV up, I don't even put it on volume 48 because, oh, that's a dead person. I'll go to 47 or 49. I don't put it on 48 just because I know what that number means. It means a dead person. So I don't like the number 48, okay? So we get a call from a person who is found deceased. I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I have to play it off like, yeah, oh, this is fine. So we get there, and it was a lady. She had passed away in her sleep, and her family had found her in the bed. And I have to call out the medical examiner. And so I don't even go in the room. I'm just like, okay, I peek in the room. I'm like, okay, yeah, she looks dead. Okay, so call the medical examiner. Because I'm like, I'm not a medical examiner. I'm not a paramedic or EMT, which I couldn't be because could never do that. Because sometimes they have to transport people who die, or if the person dies, you got to pick them up and put them. I couldn't do that. So we called the medical examiner out, and the ME gets there and is going to do whatever they do to dead bodies. I don't know. And for some reason, my training officer wanted me to stick around. So we're just hanging out, and I'm acting like, oh, if this is fine. I don't mind sticking around with a dead body. Yeah, let's hang out, So I'm acting like this is fine. And the medical examiner asks if I can help her flip the body over for some reason. And it was weird. I just happened to get a phone call right that second, and I had to rush out of the room. And it was an emergency phone call that I made up and did not have to flip the body over. I played it off very, very well. And so I think in my whole career, which was about 8 years, I think I only went on 3 calls where I actually saw a person that was dead. And because I prayed every shift, Jesus, please don't let me get a call where a person's dead. I can't do it. I years ago, way back before I was a cop, I used to work as a telephone installer back when there was a such thing as, landlines. So if you needed a jack put in your house to plug up a new phone to, I was the one you call. So I worked for this company that install phone lines. And one day in the computer, it pops up on where I'm supposed to go next. And it was a funeral home. A funeral home. And not just any funeral home. This funeral home was like an old house, like built in the 1800s old house. And it had a crawl space underneath it. Okay? And I'm just thinking, I don't know where I'm going to have to go. Am I going to have to go in the attic? Which that's not going to happen. Am I going to have to crawl under a funeral home? That's definitely not going to happen. You know what? I'm not even going on the call. So I figured out how to contact dispatch, which they don't even let us do, and told them I can't go on this call. And I ended up not going, and I was okay with getting fired if that's what it came to. They didn't fire me. They did suspend me without pay for not doing it, and I was perfectly fine with that. Perfectly fine with that. No problem at all. So, so Nature Nut says, I'd get in a shark cage before I'd go in a haunted house. You know, so I've actually swam with sharks. I'm not really afraid of sharks. Although I haven't been killed by a shark yet, haven't been eaten by a shark. So maybe I would if I was attacked by a shark. That doesn't really freak me out. So Patsy doesn't like snakes, but loves watching your show. Well, thank you, Patsy. I appreciate that. Matthew Waller is back in the chat. Let's see what he says. All right, Matthew Waller. I actually have a fear of touching dead things. Yeah, okay. Why would you want to touch dead things anyway, Matthew? And I know you have said a dead opossum may have babies, but I can't check. So yes, so if it's an animal, I'm not like scared of touching like a dead. I don't like getting there like touch dead animals. But if I need to move a dead animal or something, that doesn't freak me out like a person does. I don't know. I don't know what is it that freaks me out about it being a dead person. I don't know. What if they like jump up at you or something? I don't know. So I just I can't do that. So. Thank you guys for joining me. We're going to get ready to end it here. But before we do, so it's the end of summer. We're getting ready to go into fall, which is becoming my busy season. And tonight or tomorrow, I have to go release some copperheads because fall is, late summer, early fall is birthing season. That's baby season for snakes. So eggs are hatching, and the ones that give live birth are having babies. And so we've got some baby copperheads going to be releasing. That it was a copperhead that came in on a rescue and didn't know it was gravid, didn't know it was pregnant, and she gave birth yesterday to 5 little baby copperheads. And babies do okay being relocated to a new area more than an adult who has an established range somewhere. So, I can't take a copperhead and release him 10 miles away and expect he's going to do okay. But I can release these 5 baby copperheads and expect that things are going to be normal there. Now, the reason snakes have so many babies is because most of them don't survive. They get eaten by other things, but that's nature. So we're going to release these copperheads, have that coming up tomorrow to go do. And then if you want to come see one of my live shows that we do, make sure you go to SnakesAreUs.com and click on the calendar of events. Because I know coming up this month, which is September 2024, depending on when you're listening to this, we have the Spalding County Fair here in Georgia. Spalding County is where I was born and raised, and this is a 9-day fair. At this fair, we'll have our walk-through reptile exhibit. It's a 32-foot trailer. You walk into the back of it. On the right is all native snakes. On the left are exotics, and there'll be venomous and non-venomous snakes there. And then when you exit the front of the trailer, you're actually entering into the tortoise yard where you get to go pet tortoises and things like that. Then we'll also have our second trailer, which is our stage trailer, and I'll be doing our venomous snake shows on that stage daily. So we have the Spalding County Fair coming up here in Griffin, Georgia in September 2024. Then in October 2024, we have the Georgia National Fair. I want to say this is maybe the 8th year in a row they booked me. And so this is a pretty big fair, have over 500,000 people come to it. And at that fair, it is a lot of work. It is an 11-day fair. And at that fair, I do 4 shows a day. 4 shows a day. And so that one wears me out. After that, in November, we have coming up Stone Mountain Park in Stone Mountain, Georgia, just right outside of Atlanta. And that event they're having is the Native American Festival and Powwow. And so that's a 4-day event. And so they will actually bus in about 5,000 to 6,000 school kids per day on that Thursday and Friday. And I get to go do snake shows for all them. So that's a lot of fun. So go check out that. And we're actually already booking shows all the way up for summer and fall of 2025 already. So if you're somebody who books us, go ahead and get on the calendar, because we've got a lot of stuff we're already booking. So guys, thank y'all so much for joining me. Thank you everybody in the chat. I'm going to go through, if I didn't get to yours, I'm sorry. I'm still going to go read through all these. And I will be back here Thursday at 8 o'clock again to go live, and we'll record these live, and then we'll put them out on different places where you listen to podcasts and different things later. And eventually, if I keep doing this, if people like watching this, and we're going to see, we will add a second mic. We will actually bring some guests in here, and we've already talked to several people who said they would love to come in here, sit in the studio, and talk about snakes. So thank you guys for coming. And please have a great night. Jesus loves you, and so do I. Thank you very much for joining me, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider leaving a 5-star review. That helps me so much in pushing this podcast out to even more people. I record every Thursday, so check back next week for a new episode of the SnakesAreUsTV podcast.